Louise Bugbee is going to provide an update on NNGA plantings in Pennsylvania. Louise is an independent consultant with 20 years experience in managing grant-funded programs and projects, and also 17 years as a Penn State Extension educator. She's currently supervising projects for the Northampton County Parks Department and is a board member for the Pennsylvania Nut Growers. So let's welcome Louise.
Okay, thank you. Lights. So I want to talk about two Pennsylvania Hersheys. They are two men from Pennsylvania, unrelated. But John Hershey, I'm sure most people here know about John Hershey. He had his nut tree nursery in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, and he was a very early and influential member of the NNGA and very productive with a lot of writings. He was an early promoter of organic farming and agroforestry techniques. And then we have Milton, who, of course, is Hershey Bars chocolate. He started in Central PA in Lancaster County. He started making caramels, candies, because he was, it was a very high density dairy production in that area. But then he moved into chocolate, moved up the road a little bit, and built a chocolate factory, named the town after himself, and everybody eats Hershey chocolate now, right? So this is about these two famous Hersheys. Does anybody know this guy? Yay, right. So anybody that was here before 1968 should know Tucker. So Tucker told me that this project actually began at one of these meetings, and it was a discussion among the members about how to get nuts more out into the public eye and to get these plants back into the landscape where they once were. Also to preserve the genetics, and Tucker just said we have to have the nuts and fruits claim their rightful space in these gardens, that they can't always be relegated to the background. Tucker wanted to get these nuts out there. So Tucker initiated a project with Hershey Gardens, and the nut grove is still growing and thriving, and I thought you might want to see how some of these trees are doing in Hershey. It's about, I think, 20 acres they have out in the background there. So Hershey Park, Hershey also has a big amusement park. If you're from Pennsylvania, you've heard of Hershey Park. But Milton Hershey donated a lot of land for this public garden, and it's a really beautiful garden. It's quite large. They have a conservatory, and they had this acreage out in the back that Tucker saw as possible nut territory, and they accepted the offer. And so in 2011, 100 trees were donated from members of this group. So the Grimmos, Ken Asmus, Greg Millers, Tom Mulner's hazelnuts, Lester Martin. And so if I'm missing anybody here, please let me know if you donated any of the trees to this project, because this was all Tucker could remember. So once I started talking to Tucker about this, he would call me, every couple of weeks he would call and say, hey, I remembered this, and then I'd get a little bit more information out of him. So he was just thrilled to know that I was going to come and update you on this. So this is all the things that were sent to Hershey, some persimmons and some pawpaws from Jerry Lehman that Tucker grafted later. And a year later, after these were planted, they were planted with the help of a local landscaper. His name was Bob Good. I was able to track him down too to get some more information. So Tucker had an article in the Nutshell the following year in March of 2012. And then, I don't know, it kind of just went quiet. There was nothing else said about it for a long time. I heard about it from Buzz about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when I first contacted Tucker. So I wanted to show you how some of the things are doing. This is the accession list from, I'll go through it a little bit, from 2011. So that is the hazelnut. Tom, those are your hazelnuts. They're doing great. That bottom one is, what's that one? A Grimmo. So the hazelnuts look really great, and the director told me they produce quite heavily. And as we go through this, you'll see there's like so many different varieties of everything in this park. It's really a wonderful resource to have. Then there were the Hickens. That's a deer stand pecan. So, that one, it's it's a little crooked because I think they planted these things and then they kind of just forgot about them. So some of the trees had to really do their own straightening as time went by, but they are doing quite well. Then we have the shagbarks and the shellbarks. That one there is a T92. So when I see these names like a T92, does this tree go on to get a real name, or is it still called T92? Anybody know? It's still T9. Well, when does it get to have a real name? Oh, because it's doing really well. I mean, if it was experimental and you were waiting to see what would happen, and there it is. I think it deserves a name. So does the Grimo 10HA deserve a name. Because that tree was really tall and really beautiful, and I was really impressed. So a lot of the trees had some small signage on them that said it was donated by NNGA, but they actually couldn't find the list. So when I was talking to Tucker, he had lost the list. When I talked to the director of the park, he didn't have a list, but they did some digging and finally they turned up the list. So when I went to go and look for the trees, I was able to find almost everything, and the director went out and tagged all of them before he retired. So everything does have at least, an little aluminum tag on now, and they're going to get real signage on all the trees. That's a Summers, and look at that graft. Isn't that just beautiful? I just love to go and see how those grafts look on the trees. And it's, it's such a good educational thing for people to go around and really look at these things and understand the work that you do to get the nuts out that people eat. Then the middle area oak section is also doing very well. They seemed a little smaller, but I guess they'll take off some other odd varieties that I didn't know there. Pawpaws are doing great. What a selection of pawpaws we had there, and there were just tiny little fruits on all the trees. These pictures were taken in, I guess, May, late April or May. So the pawpaws are just wonderful. Now, okay, let's go 10 years on. So those trees were planted in 2011. In 2020, we got the research grant from NNGA to start an agroforestry program in Northampton County, Pennsylvania. Northampton County is in eastern PA, right along the Delaware River. We can see New Jersey on the other side. And we wanted to preserve John Hershey's work because his trees were in kind of a very populated area and down near Philadelphia, and a lot of the trees, most of the trees were lost, 60% of the trees, probably more by now. And so we wanted to have a protected and safe place for John's work, his life's work, because probably you've seen it. If not, you can find it. His obituary that his wife wrote for him. It was his dream. He wanted to have an arboretum in Downingtown where he had his trees. And at the time that he was trying to establish that, he was becoming ill. It was the 1960s. And the township just, no interest. They just, no, so what? And little by little, the nursery just got nibbled away. And now it's turning lanes and a high school and pizzerias, and John's trees are just gone. So we're very happy to have gotten the research grant from you so that we could at least do this for John. And good news, last year we were accredited as an arboretum. So we have 4 distinct areas now with nuts, locusts, persimmons, and mulberries, and all of this was from Hershey stock, and it was all grafted by Buzz and Zach Elfers. And this year we're going to be putting in a 90-foot row of Tom's hazelnuts. And as time goes by, we continue to add things to the park. Another thing we did this year, I like to call it Hershey Nursery North because that's what it is. That's not officially on the brochure, but that's what we all refer to it as, Hershey Nursery North. This year we had these cages made. So these kids are from the Bethlehem area Votech School. We had the welding class design and make cages for all the trees in the Arboretum. And it's really wonderful. So when people are walking in the park, 5 minutes, okay, they can look out and they see all of those cages, and it's obvious, this is something. These trees are special. And they came up with a really cool design. They just used flat carbon steel, but the cages are, about this tall, and they're in 2 sections bolted together so that when the trees outgrow the cage, we can take it apart and use it on other trees. So that was a great thing. The county paid for those cages. It was part of a workforce development, and the kids were really excited about it. So we are encouraging younger nut growers, because a couple of the kids were really, really happy to learn about the nuts. We're also adding what we call a story tree trail. This is the first one we got, the Salem oak. Has anybody ever heard of this one? If you're from New Jersey, you probably heard of the Salem oak. This is a 500-year-old white oak growing in Salem County, New Jersey. That postcard is from the 30s. This picture is from 2019, where it just got tired. It just fell over one day. But supposedly one of the main Quaker members at the time signed a treaty with the Lenni Lenape Indians under this tree, and it was, one of the remaining trees from the old growth forest, but, even oaks don't live forever, so one day it just fell over. No one was hurt, nothing was damaged, but a friend of ours, Max Pascal from Philadelphia, he flew down to Jersey and got 20 cuttings of this tree and sent them straight up to Buzz. And Buzz grafted 20 cuttings. It was kind of the wrong time because it was June, but one took. And here it is. It's in the Arboretum now. So yay Buzz. And, he tried to give it to the Quaker meeting in Jersey, and they didn't want it. So, of course, I said, well, Buzz, I have a place for that tree. So 500 years from now, let's just think, that tree might be that big in eastern Pennsylvania 500 years from now. So what we're trying to do with the story trees is just have people to kind of interact with trees and history at the same time and think about 500 years ago, what was happening 500 years in the future when this tree is still there, how will the world be, and what can we do to make sure that we're all still here in 500 years. So here's another one. Does anybody remember this? That tree, I bought this seedling at the auction from our meeting in Iowa. So that tree was a big old bur oak growing in southwestern Wisconsin. This is Mark Hirsch. He took a picture of it every day for a year and wrote this book, The Lonely Life. Organizations that we work together with. You heard from Robbie, Zach, Pennsylvania Nut Growers. We Conserve PA is an agency that's similar to what Andrew Faust talked about yesterday. So we've been trying to infiltrate them a little bit and get the agroforestry mentality into We Conserve PA. They help mainly with the legalities of trying to get land trusts together. And the natural outcome from all of this, but before I do, this is the group. So that's Bill Kiefer there in the front. That's who Tucker worked with. He was a director, my Northampton Parks guys, and some of the other staff at Hershey. So I'm here on behalf of all of these people to thank you for your support and helping us to get this together and, to get these trees out there in protected places. But this is what really should happen. Hershey bars with hickory nuts. But we're going to need a lot more hickory nuts, so people have to get out there and plant more hickories. Can I take a question or no?
Question.
One question.
Just a comment. We visited your arboretum after the meeting at Reading, PA.
Oh, yes, you did, yeah, and everything's doing really well. Yeah.
Nice to see that.
Yeah, oh, good.
Take another few. We need a happy story.
Not many people know that Milton Hershey tried to establish in Pennsylvania an almond orchard to grow almonds for his chocolate bars.
Oh,
They were
really?
Successful. And that stimulated me to try to do something with soft shell almonds, which I had hoped to import from Romania and Hungary after the Soviet Union broke down, and Louis Shreve from Uvalde, Texas, went over there and worked with them, blackballed it over there, but had all these selections of stuff that he had, saw that they were working with, and we tried to get them over here, but I don't think anything ever was able to get introduced.
Oh.
Soft shell almonds that they have in Eastern Europe.
Thank you. That's very interesting. I will add that to my story thing.
I have a question. Have you given thought as to how the seed and scion distribution I'm just curious how
That's something that we have to work on as time goes by. But working with that We Conserve PA, they'll help us with the legalities of, making sure that the trees are accessible and, as far as liability, if we have people coming in doing scion wood cuttings, and that's, 30 or 20 years from now. So we've thought about it. We just haven't decided how to do it. But we were not going to be deterred by that little issue, right? We'll figure that out when the time comes. But thank you.